As unaccustomed as I am to speaking into the microphone, I'll try to make it happen tonight. Good evening, fellow jihadists and anarchists. I can't believe you clapped at that. That's great. First of all, I want to thank Clear Lake Tea Party for having me. Thank you so much. Roberto, thank you for being on the show. Heidi Teese is also a frequent caller to the show on AM 1070. Thank you, Heidi. You know what, real quick of course, for Heidi, we love her. League City Councilwoman who on her website quotes Thomas Jefferson. You rock in our world. When I got into talk radio in 2005, when Clear Channel made me an offer I couldn't refuse, boy, we thought we had problems in 2005. Country takes a radical turn to the left, slam on the brakes on 45, just a left turn, go right over the guardrail. And something happened, this modern day Tea Party was born. In 2009, I attended my first Tea Party rally at the Alamo in San Antonio. I don't know how many people were there, okay? There were maybe 10,000, 12,000 people, whatever. And I took my wife and my little boy, who was 11 at the time, I said, let's see patriotism in action. And all these people were angry at what was happening then. This is before the NSA and all this garbage. Interesting thing happened. A guy near us sneezed. Okay? 8 people stopped and turned around and said, God bless you. Because even though they were angry, these patriots never lost their humanity. Right? We were angry at the government, what was happening. The bloated government got bigger and the states were getting smaller and we were losing our power, but we never forgot our fellow man. It was an amazing event. In 2009, they asked me to speak at the Tea Party rally at the steps of the Capitol in Austin. It was 101 degrees that day. I said, Maron, who's going to stand out there in 101 degree heat with no shade? 5,000 proud, sweaty patriots. In 2010, I was at Discovery Green for a Tea Party rally on tax day. There was a young guy up there, blue jeans, boots, and a white shirt. He tore it up. Ted Cruz. On the rally circuit in 2010, we knew something was about. He was a superstar back then. But then the persecution began. The IRS, the Gestapo collection agency, started to come down on real patriots, on real Americans, and the persecution was real. Texas Magazine said my morning show was the crossroads of the Tea Party in Texas. It got bigger than that because Tea Party folks, mostly women, were calling in from Waco to Wetumpka, telling their stories, crying on the radio about what they had to go through because they had the word Constitution or Patriot. This is insane. Catherine Engelbrecht of the King Street Patriots, a great friend of the show, called to tell about the visits after she filed for that tax exemption, the visits from the IRS, the FBI, ATF, OSHA, and any other collection of initials you can imagine. I said, you're going to have to make your parking lot bigger at work. It didn't stop. Anybody here in this room tonight who was personally persecuted, so to speak, because of their Tea Party affiliation? 1, 2, great. 3, 4, 5, 6. You are the patriots that we're here to rock with. We're here to give you cover fire, and that's what I do on the radio. Give you cover fire because what happened to you was horrible. Yeah, give them a bigger applause because they're just civilians. They're just moms and dads, businessmen and women, minding their own business, reading something horrible called the Constitution. And that's why we're here tonight, to make sure that we keep our politicians honest, and whether we send them to Austin, whether we send them to Washington, D.C., or every place in between. So Tea Party people, you rock. Now, let me tell you what I have to do. I'm going to introduce each candidate. They'll get a quick hello, and then they're going to sit down. The shorter the introduction, the more time they have to introduce themselves. Are you ready? Give me a yeah. First up, you want it Astro style? Playing first base, number 5, Jeff Bagwell. First up is Todd Staples. Todd never wavering on his conservative principles in the Texas House of Representatives, the state Senate, and your Commissioner of Agriculture. Todd has always been a fighter for Texans. Among his many accomplishments while in the legislature, Todd Staples fought for and passed record-setting tax cuts, was chair of the Republican caucus, received an A rating and endorsements from the NRA, and sponsored the state constitutional amendment redefining marriage as one man and one woman. Gabish, ladies and gentlemen, Todd Staples.
Great. I didn't know we were going to get an opportunity to say hello this evening. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for caring for our great state and our great nation. What you represent here tonight is a passion and an energy that is transforming our nation. You can never give up on fighting that fight. It's an honor to be here with you this evening and to have served in our legislature where I was ranked among the top conservatives. It's an honor to have fought for and helped pass tax cuts in both chambers of the legislature. I'm glad to have stood up for the rights of private property owners and reformed a failed eminent domain system. I'm proud to have sued the Obama administration over imposing job-killing EPA mandates on our state. We need to defend ourselves, our 10th Amendment rights, every opportunity that we get. And when it comes to protecting landowners, no one knows the horrors like the landowners that live and work on the Texas-Mexico border today, who are being chased off their properties by violent and treacherous drug cartels. That's why we need to stand with them, demand a sovereign border. That's why I developed a 6-point immigration reform plan that does not include amnesty and starts with border security, ladies and gentlemen. As your ag commissioner, I have worked to cut waste in my agency. We have worked to abolish agencies, move those functions to the Department of Agriculture, where we deliver them at lower cost and with fewer number of employees, because that's the way that conservatives are supposed to govern. You expect us to do what you tell us to do when we go to serve you. I'm proud to have stood with pro-life groups shoulder to protect life and been ranked among the highest members of the legislature when I was there. The decisions you make tonight are going to determine who is going to fight for you, work for you, do what you sent them to do. I'm proud to join in being here with you and look forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you so much for standing up for liberties.
Jerry Patterson, a proud Texas Aggie, commissioned second lieutenant in our nation's beloved United States Marine Corps from 93 to 99. Mr. Patterson served as a state senator for District 11, represented portions of Harris, Galveston, Brazoria counties. His most significant legislation successes, we talked about this morning, included passage of the historic concealed handgun law and legislation enabling Texas Coastal Management Plan and the creation of the Texas State Veterans Home Program. In 2002, he was elected as the 27th Texas Land Commissioner, reelected again and again. Please give it up for Mr. Jerry Patterson.
All right, thank you, Sam. It's good to be back in Clear Lake. I lived not far from here until I had to move to 90 square miles surrounded by reality, the capital of Texas, Austin, a place that is described as very weird, and it is. I'm good to be back and to visit with you tonight. We're going to have a very interesting discussion, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to ask you a couple of things to do. To keep in mind as we go through this evening, which is going to last 2 hours, I want you to look at substantive stuff. I want you to try to discount the cliches and the slogans and the bumper stickers. I want you to listen to something that has maybe meaning and specificity. And I'm going to submit to you that I'm going to provide more specificity than any other candidate tonight or for the rest of the campaign. We too often use cliches and slogans as the quick, easy answer to the problems that Texas faces. What we have today, though, is in my view, arguably at least, a vacuum of leadership at the capital of the great state of Texas. I intend to fill that gap. And I will tell you, I'm not a stranger to leadership. I served, in the United States Marine Corps for 24 years, active in reserve. I served in Vietnam at the end of the war. I came back to Texas. I was elected to the state senate in 1992, and as a freshman, when freshmen are not supposed to say anything, I passed the Texas concealed handgun law in 1993. Now that was the good news. The bad news is Richards vetoed it, but I came back 2 years later and passed it, and George W. Bush signed it. And you recall the discussion at the time that if we pass that bill, it will be wild, wild west, shootouts at every four-way stop and blood in the streets, and none of that happened. So I intend to lead when I get to Austin. I've led as land commissioner fighting the environmental Nazis from the Sierra Club and other jurisdictions to try to shut down oil and gas exploration and production in the Permian Basin and along the Texas Gulf Coast. I will be your leader as lieutenant governor. And I will tell you one thing before I close. We're all good folks up here. There's 4 good choices. And no matter who wins this race, I'm going to be fighting the Democrats in November, but I plan on fighting the Democrats as your lieutenant governor candidate. Thank you very much.
Our next candidate, Texas Senator Dan Patrick. Dan arrived in Austin for his first session back in 2007. And some of the legislation he passed, well, back in 2011, the sonogram bill to protect women and the unborn. Yes, that's a big one. Come on. This year passed major school choice, the charter bill for the first change of charter since 1997. Dan is the chair of the Senate Education Committee, serves on a total of 6 committees, including some of those important in the Senate. You got finance, transportation, higher education, redistricting, and criminal justice, often seen on Fox News. Ladies and gentlemen, our state senator, Dan Patrick.
Good evening, good afternoon, Pastor. Great to be here with you. Robert, great introduction. The Tea Party is alive and strong, and the Democrats and a lot of Republicans don't know it. It's better organized, it's more sophisticated, it's gone from just holding rallies to getting people elected to holding them accountable. In fact, I got to know Robert because I formed the Tea Party caucus in the 2011 session so that we could bring in Tea Party leaders from around the state to learn the process of how government works so you could hold the people that you send to Austin accountable. Jerry said something that I absolutely agree with. Listen for substance tonight. Listen for specifics. We need a lieutenant governor who has a clarity of purpose of where we're going and how we're going to get there. And I'll give you some specifics to start. One thing I will do as lieutenant governor is not let the Democrats run the Texas Senate. I will not appoint half of the Democrats to chairman of committees as they are now. I will not appoint half of the legislative budget board, which shapes our budget, to give to Democrats. And I will fight with senators to change the 21 vote rule, which continues to water down conservative legislation and block conservative legislation. You work too hard to send conservative Republicans to Austin to let Democrats have the final say. It will not happen on my watch. Secondly, we've done a lot of good things as Republicans, and I'm proud of a lot of the things we have done. But it's the conservative issues that we have not addressed and completed that I will get done. We will pass border security with specificity. We will pass sanctuary cities and get Governor Greg Abbott, after he beats Wendy Davis, to sign it. We'll get it through the House as well as the Senate. We will vote down in-state tuition. I'm the only candidate running who has actively opposed in the legislature to end in-state tuition with Senator Brian Birdwell in the 2011 session. I will pass property tax relief. I have not had the leadership help. I've not had the will to get that done by other members. You should not have to rent your home from the state of Texas after you pay for it. Border security, property taxes, school choice, and a number of other issues we'll discuss tonight. You have blessed me so much in the 35 years I've been in Houston. Thank you for sending me to the Texas Senate. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you tonight my vision for a growing and great Texas. Thank you very much.
And our final candidate tonight, the Lieutenant Governor, David Dewhurst, a native Texan, proud military veteran, successful businessman and rancher. He served as Lieutenant Governor and President of the Texas Senate since 2003. Back in 1998, Dewhurst became the first Republican since Reconstruction to be elected Texas Land Commissioner. He reduced the workforce and budget of the Texas General Land Office and turned back money each of the 2 biennia to Texas taxpayers. He served in our United States Air Force, then the CIA, later in the State Department. Ladies and gentlemen, your Lieutenant Governor, David Dewhurst.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am so thankful that you're here, and we all appreciate it. I'll share something with you. This election isn't about me, and it's not about these guys over here. This election is all about you, because we work for you. You're the citizens, you're our bosses. That's why over the last 10 years, I've crisscrossed the state of Texas, listening to you. When you honored me 10 years ago by electing me your lieutenant governor, you've given me a chance to come in and take this state from being good to great. Today, we're a great, great state. We're #1 in virtually every economic category worth reporting. What does that mean? It means opportunity. The fact that this state has been prospering, the fact that we're #1 Number one in the country is the best place to do business. Number one, the strongest economy. Number one in our job creation. Number one in exports means that there's opportunity. Because we can have, and my wife who's sitting right over here, Trish, and I have a beautiful, charming, brightest little girl in the world, most talented, works real hard, but unless you have that environment of opportunity, you can't succeed. We're at a crossroads today. One of the things that's happening is our population is doubling. It's growing some 1,200 people a day. People have heard about Texas, and they're coming here in droves. And so in order to keep this state growing, keeping it number one, we need an experienced hand on the wheel, one that is a dedicated conservative, one that didn't flinch when we had 7,000 people in a mob, and we came right back a week later and we passed the biggest omnibus pro-life bill in the history of the country. I'm going to be talking this evening about specific things that I've led on, because the legislature is organized not to pass things. It takes leadership to pass things. It's a big difference between talking about wanting to be a lieutenant governor and being lieutenant governor and leading. Let me just end by saying, let's keep our eyes focused on working together and using our Lone Star